Alright, so we have here a diagram of existence, and it's kind of drawn this way like a top-down format just to try to help with the understanding of things. If I would draw it a little more accurately in its representation of form, and that it would kind of be more of circles within circles, and considering everything is contained within this and leads up to this. So this might throw you off a little bit, but it's just try to help to understand on how things are laid out as I approach this subject. Now, we have here at the top there, we have all. That would be your God, creator, everything, all, whatever you want to call it. We could call it God. Unfortunately, sometimes that brings, the Bible and things into it, or being a person up in the sky with a long beard looking down on us. That not really that. Let's just think of it as everything. Is best that we can understand that concept. And then off from that would be being and spirit, which would be the true self, our true self. And up here would be our reality. Now this area we find up here, this is where infinity is. So this would be timelessness. Now this area here would be emotion and mind. And then we have here, with a separation, we have dreaming. And then we have material, senses, and language. This would be your body, brain, all your senses, and language. And just as we dumb down and as we get down from here, and I use that term dumbing down, because the more that we come down and break down from here, and I guess what we would consider an evolution, essentially it is a de-evolution from what we really are. Up here would be our reality. Down here, with the world of form, we have time. Now, we try to think of time as linear with our thoughts. We think of the past and the future, creating a bridge, knocking out the present, which is essentially the only time, and the only time is now. Yet time is actually more cyclical, and it is not linear at all. And everything occurs in cycles. And we can look here in the world of form with time, space, to get an understanding of this, because we need to understand that everything that stems down from this reality is a part of it, and there is reflections and traces of it through it all. Therefore, we see things as cycles, and we know the illusion of time, and time is illusion, but all of this is illusion. This is the world, this is the shadow world down here. So we have reality, and this would be our shadow world. And here would be, in regards to time, would be an in-between. Now, we need to understand something, that once breaking this line here and getting into emotion, mind, materials, and I'm keeping dreaming separate from this, because all of this, emotion, mind, senses, language, and the material, the body, brain, all of these are tools. All of these are tools. Now, we need to understand that, because we get confused, and a lot of times as a species we think that we are the body, and we get wrapped up in the emotions, and we let that guide our decision making and how to apply. So we use tools to help us apply other tools, and even bring down our reality of here down into here, try to make sense and understanding of what we are. But yet they are tools. They can be applied any way that we want to. I think the ideal way to have these tools is to understanding what we are, essentially. Now, I have dreaming here because dreaming is kind of like a gateway, and it's a gateway into here and in a transitioning. And I'm going to focus on an understanding here of sleep and how I perceive sleep to actually have an effect on how we go about things. Now, I want to bring in a really good point right here first. This line here. This is pretty much your solid line. Everything that goes on, quote unquote, up here, and that is understood here and known, cannot cross down to here, and vice versa. This is the line. Now, the material and that cannot cross over into that. There needs to be the transitioning phase, which a lot of us would term death. Once again, going into fear-mongering or controlling others through the concept of fear and scaring them. When we take away these concepts of understanding that there's a transition here that we call death, to get to here, and vice versa, no different. You have the being spirit being dead, then born into the body. And vice versa, the body being dead, and then born into the spirit. Now, this in-between area here, now, this is where we find ourselves when we are dreaming. Now, dreaming is kind of like a gateway to get to these. When we think about when we lay down to sleep, okay, we lay down to sleep, and then we have some dreams, we hit REM sleep and stuff like that, and then we dream again right before we wake up. And the two times that we dream is right as we are about to fall asleep and right as we wake up. Now, the time that's in between while we dream before waking up and after going to sleep, we cannot remember, and we have no acknowledgement. But obviously, being conscious beings, and consciousness is always there and always present, completely omnipresent, there has to be some sort of awareness that is taking place that we just can't bring back. And that's what I think is going on right here because of dreaming going on here. Now, what I think is what's going on is we have, this would be your everyday thing going on here, moving about the body, having some senses, language, bickering amongst each other like we do. And then we lay down to sleep, and then we dream. And then here would be your in-between state of time. And this would kind of be like how when we dream, how time is another body that I was speaking with was explaining how time is almost like three-dimensional whenever we are dreaming. And I thought that was a really good, explanation of it as best as possible. So it's almost like we lay down and we dream. And as we dream, we are here in these little areas in the in-between. We still have our emotions, we still have our mind. We don't see our body, and we really don't even necessarily see our hands. It's not like a first-person video game or anything like that with that kind of a view. It's just more of kind of like an ethereal experience, which would be where we're at here. Now, after dreaming has ended, I think that we go up here. Every time that we fall asleep in this quote-unquote linear, actually or cyclical time, I think that we go up here, which is why we can't bring anything back. We can only slightly remember our dreams, and even them without, quick focus for when we wake up or writing down or trying to remember, putting them in the memory bank of the brain, processing computer, nothing more, purely material. But we can't remember anything that's going up here. But I think every time we sleep, whenever that would be, that we actually go back to here. Now, we can't take it back. Now here, this line here, this is what our dogmatic institutions and a lot of religions and stuff with the story of Jesus Christ. This is the lie, the resurrection. The resurrection is a lie. There is no body that can cheat death. Everything that exists down here has to die. That's the rule. The rule of inform is death, because death is the transition to get back where we were, being the cyclical experience that it is. And everything has to die. Accepting the story or the belief that Jesus Christ cheated death essentially tells us this is not true, that he can cheat the only rule that exists down here that everything needs to follow, and that he is somehow different and better than us in being God's only son. Yet, we are all part of God and all part of the all, and none of us can cheat death. That's why the resurrection story and the cheating of death is so important, because it creates that separation between us, and we can almost have a worship status, because we can never achieve that story, because that story of the resurrection is a lie. Now, understanding that and not being able to bring anything back to and fro, we really have to focus on the aspect of the tools through our day-to-day existence. And in this understanding, with the emotions and the mind and the material and the senses and the language and all of these tools, we can use these things instead of trying to attribute them to what we are, and just understanding that they are merely tools to discover what we are, that we are not actually them. And a lot of times here I have link with the being and the spirit, with the material, body, brain, and the mind, because these would be the things that we link and we bring relation to. Sometimes some of us think that we are the mind, And some of us think that we are the body, but yet we are neither of those, for we are right here, yet we relate those to here. No different than emotions. Now, emotions seem to be up here with the mind, experiencing them within dreams and whatnot, yet emotions are merely tools. That is all that they are. Now, I have those linked with senses because that seems to be the most common from my interaction with others, of how we portray them and try to understand them and wrap that and bring that down into here. And it's almost like we just try to bring as much of this as we can down and create our own implementation down here and essentially just screw things up. As once we have, in between language here, then after this you could go culture, you could go society, and all these things to get us to where our present time is, to where we're at now. A very interesting time, but I would not say that it is one of paradise at all.